Well, welcome back, polished friends, to the Polished Podcast. We hope you're enjoying the conversation we're having with today's guest, Amber Teufel. And now it's time to add a dash of spontaneity and a sprinkle of fun to the show. It's time for Ask Me Anything. So, Amber, this is how Ask Me Anything works. This is a chance for us to peel back the layers, get to know the woman behind the work, the quirks behind the expertise, and I'm going to ask you a few questions that I and our audience have curated, and we just want to follow our curiosity to know more about you. Do you think you can handle it?
Try my best.
Oh, yes. Well, we'll start off with, I think, maybe it's easy, maybe not. It's International Women's Month when we're posting this episode. Who are the women that have inspired and influenced you the most, and in what ways have they done so?
Oh, who has inspired me the most? I think there, on a personal level, it's my mom, 100%.
Aw, love it.
It sounds super, super obvious, but she grew up with nothing. She grew up in the middle of nowhere, Virginia. She got her life together, raised babies, got a job. She is the one that was telling me from day one, like, do not stay in a small town. Go get an education. Go be wonderful, and don't let anybody do anything to you. Right? Like, she was full-fledged woman power from the beginning. Go out, be amazing, do anything you want to do. If anybody gets in your way, take care of it, right? Like, she was full mafia, right? And I think that gave me a really strong foundation that then got followed up by really strong educational women. When I did my PhD at Miami, we went to Antarctica. My primary investigator, the person who was my boss, woman, she rocked it. She was phenomenal. She is one of the most intelligent people I have ever met in my life. She goes into the field, is staying in a place that is sub-zero temperatures at all times, doing fundamental research and sleeping in a tent. And I'm sitting there looking at her my very first night, freezing my butt off. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to survive this. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, she just took her coat off because she's already comfortable. She's cool. Like, I want to be her, right? Like, not only is she super intelligent, but she's also handling this as if, this is a day at the beach. And I was just so floored by that. And then I got through my PhD, I got into my job, and I recently got a brand new mentor who is awesome. She is one of these women who was in the company back when women still had to wear skirts, and was hired at a time where really, if you were a woman, you were probably an administrator, like a secretary, and she paved the way. And to hear her stories about how she got to where she is has just been absolutely phenomenal for me. So I think just in general, surrounding myself with famous to me, not maybe in the news or anything, but amazing women who have done exactly what I want to do and where I want to be, I think has been like kind of the biggest thing for me.
Oh, I love that. Wow. You've had such great influential women in your life, and I love it. I love it. I love it. Amber, do you have a hobby or an activity that you enjoy that people might be surprised to learn about you?
Well, the safe one is I like to read, but the not so safe one is my husband and I really enjoy spelunking and caving. And so one of the things we like to do is actually get underground and explore new places that most of the people in the world don't get the opportunity to see. And so that's kind of fun.
How often do you do this? This is news to me, and we've been friends for a while.
I would like to say it's more often than it is. Since I had babies, it's cut down a little bit, but we used to go a few times a year. And there's some really great cave systems just across the border in Kentucky that are really nice to do weekend trips for and take the kids camping and get the kids underground too.
Yeah, I have an irrational fear of caves, and my husband has been trying to drag me down across that border to go into one. So maybe he can go with you guys the next time.
He's welcome to come. I love Brian.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, my final question for you is, what's the most valuable lesson life has taught you so far?
Whatever you think your plan is, you're wrong. And I say that because it has happened multiple times in my life where I have something new, something exciting, and I have a timeline for it, and none of it ever happens, right? And what I've learned is that better things happen. So,
Sure.
for example, I mentioned early on, right, that I wanted to go to medical school. I had it in my head. I was
Yes.
going to go to medical school. I got there, realized it wasn't for me, ended up doing grad school instead. That ended up putting me about 4 years behind most of the other people in my graduate program age-wise. And I was super bummed about it. It did not fit my timeline. It didn't fit my timeline for getting a husband and having children and this, that, and the other. And then I met my husband, and he was just coming into the university at that exact same time. And had I been there 4 years earlier, I never would have met him. I wouldn't have had that opportunity to have him, to have the life that I have now. You know, and then once we got married, I had another timeline. I was going to graduate. I was going to get a postdoc. We were going to have babies. And then I was going to get a big girl job. And what ended up happening is we couldn't get pregnant. And we're struggling, and we weren't getting pregnant. And so I went to the doctor. Come to find out, I've got thyroid cancer. Yay. That wasn't on my to-do list.
Wow.
But it was because we were trying to get pregnant. And so the obstetrician happened to think about it, got it tested, come to find out we found this, right? And so we got it early. It's gone. No more thyroid. I got a pretty little scar to prove it. And what's even better, I've got 2 beautiful babies now because we got rid of the problem, right? Like they were able to get it out, get rid of the cancer, get rid of that. Instantly, right after surgery. That was like the very next month I was pregnant. So it was meant to be at that time. And we were on our way back to Ohio then. So I had finished the postdoc. We were, further along than what I had originally thought of, but now we had family, and we had moved back to Ohio, and we're back with this support system. We joined our current church, which is where I met the lovely Jane Dorman. And I got this support system that I wouldn't have had there, to be perfectly honest. Like in New York, I didn't have that support system. I didn't have that church.
Sure.
I didn't have all the things that I didn't realize I didn't have. And so by taking a minute, pausing, not only did I get rid of something that could have potentially really been a killer issue, but it also gave me the opportunity to raise our children in a much better space, not just geographically, but also from a community standpoint. And those are just the 2 biggest examples. But as I think back over my life and even my career, it has happened time and time again. I think I know when something's going to happen and when the optimal time is, and I get knocked on my butt, and then it's like, nope, wait, okay, now you can have it. And it's so much better than what I would have thought of.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Amber.
You're welcome.
I had forgotten those pieces of your story. I remember you sharing that, as you were bringing it up, and I'm like, oh my goodness, yes, you did go through that. Yes, you did, And I'm so glad God brought you here to Ohio for us to meet. And I even think how God knit our stories together. That's a story for another time, but long story short, I met Philip's mom and dad at a small group that my husband and I were a part of for a season. And then when we started a new life group, Claire introduced me to Amber because Amber was this new, young, soon-to-be mom that just moved into town. And they're like, can you have them come to your life group? I said, yeah, sure. And the rest is history. So I'm just really thankful for you and just the friendship you bring to my life.
And for all the listeners, just so you know, Jane is actually the one that got in and baptized me when I was finally ready. So Jane has played a very instrumental part of my life, and you all are very, very, very lucky to get to hear her all the time.
Oh, Amber, you are too sweet. Well, I'm going to interrupt this what?
Love Fest?
What is Love Fest? Yes. And we'll wrap up this segment. Hey, Amber, I really appreciate you sharing with us, just little bits of your story outside of the context of what we were talking about earlier. But here's the thing, friends, we want you to be a part of the conversation too. We want your burning questions and your curious musings and your wild wonderings about our guests. So if there's something, anything that you want to ask, now is your chance. Go to polishnetwork.org/podcast. Submit your questions there. Be a Polished Podcast MVP and send in those questions today. You'll get a mention, you'll get insight to your favorite guests, and we can't wait to dive into those queries and to unveil the surprises that await. So send those questions in today.